Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. Thanks for joining us. There is a live look from our Shriners camera if you were joining in, overlooking Portland to the north, and there in the center of the screen, wasn't there earlier, there was too many clouds, but just in time, Mount St. Helens making an appearance there to peek out. Still a little bit of clouds there, but a good shot of that. And in case you didn't know, if you are watching live, today is the anniversary of that 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. We're going to be discussing that and really how things have changed over the years and a whole lot more. Again, I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now. We are live here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, as we are every weekday. We start around 1 o'clock and we go throughout the afternoon. But this is certainly something that's a big conversation piece to talk about. By the way, there's no danger right now, so don't worry about that. But we do want to talk about Mount St. Helens. And to do so, we've got our expert joining us here once again. We've got Holly, who is here from the USGS Cascades Volcano Observatory, if I said that correct, I hope. Okay, got that part. And Holly, thank you, for joining us to talk about this. And, we are in some ways, a fortunate area as far as being near volcanoes to have that kind of access to this. The 1980 eruption was huge, and I don't want to, belittle that point at all, but I think to talk about that, I was curious to go through the angle of the actual observing side of things. And maybe if you could give us a little bit of a walkthrough of how the volcano was observed back in 1980 when we had this big eruption, and what kind of data the organizations that were doing the science back then were able to collect and understand about the volcano.
Yeah, thanks for having me today on the 46-year anniversary of the eruption in 1980. In 1980, the technology was so different than it is now. And the big takeaway really is that our scientists had to be much closer to their subject. They had to be much closer to the volcano in order to do that work. And when the volcano started waking up in 1980, around March of 1980, we didn't have a Cascades Volcano Observatory. We didn't have scientists already stationed here in case one of our Cascade volcanoes woke up. We had some scientists in Menlo Park in California. We had some scientists in Colorado. We had the scientists up at University of Washington that studied earthquakes, but there was no one here. So we had to fly scientists in because the volcano was on Forest Service land. All the scientists met at Forest Service headquarters, which was located in Vancouver, Washington, which turned out to be a fantastic place to put the observatory. So we're still located in Vancouver, Washington. It's an easy place to monitor all the volcanoes from while being close, but outside of any hazard zones, other than potential for some ash. So in 1980, when our scientists were monitoring the volcano, we did have to be a lot closer. We didn't have GPS or cell phone technologies or the things that we have today. So in order to monitor the bulge that was growing on the north side of the volcano, we had to have scientists stationed on the north side of the volcano. That was Coldwater 2 Observation Point. And at Coldwater 2 Observation Point, that's where David Johnston was the morning of the eruption. And so he famously said, "Vancouver, Vancouver, this is it," calling back to his colleagues in Vancouver, letting them know that he was observing the eruption. He was miles away from the volcano, looking towards the north face in order to do those observations. But unfortunately, that was within the blast zone. That is a picture of David using some of this instrumentation that we had back then to monitor the volcano and had to be close to it. Also, our gas scientists, in order to detect gases coming from the volcano, they needed to be on the volcano sampling those gases. And it would just be the one data point from the time that they were on the volcano. So we were much more restricted in the amount of information that we had. Also, for seismic information, our scientists had to be in a room full of old drum seismic recorders that use actual ink to mark out where the earthquakes are occurring. Scientists had to be standing in a room full of those in order to see what was happening underneath the ground. Now we can all get it to our phones. So scientists don't have to be physically present in one room. They can be wherever they need to when an earthquake swarm occurs.
Wow, I mean, just looking at some of these, some of this imagery as well of just what it was like back then, and
Yeah.
having to be so close to those. I mean, that's just incredible work that they were doing. Incredibly dangerous, it seems like, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very, especially in the past, it was a really dangerous career. It still remains a dangerous career. We're working around things that are exploding. We're working around things that are um, potentially thousands of degrees. Um, Stuff that we have to wear cotton, because if you wear synthetic materials, it can melt just working around them. I was recently in Hawaii responding to the eruption, the ongoing eruption there. I went into the crater 2 days after the eruption had stopped, but it was still warm enough to do some damage to my boots. So it can be really still a dangerous field, but we take a lot of precautions.
With the number of years, the 46 years since this last eruption, how has the technology changed to allow for maybe some more safety, but also changing how we observe it in general with the data that we get?
Mount St. Helens has proven to be a fantastic scientific ground for researchers. And it's so close by. It has really easy access to power and and internet. So we're able to do a lot of research there and get the data out, whereas it's a lot more difficult on our remote volcanoes. So Mount St. Helens has become just a playground for science. And we're able to test out new instruments there and see how well they work, get up there, tweak them, modify them, and then be able to use those on other volcanoes. Right now, Mount St. Helens is the only volcano in the Cascades with a gas monitoring station permanently installed. It's operating 24/7. Each station gets a four-letter name, and it is called Sniff. And Sniff is constantly smelling for any increasing volcanic gases that could be coming out. We also have a lot of GPS sensors. There weren't GPS sensors the way they are now in 1980. So in order to watch the deformation, they had to physically watch the mountain. Now we have GPS sensors up there that can detect millimeters of movement and send that information right back to our observatory. So it's so much easier now than it was before. Also, when Mount St. Helens woke back up again in 2004, we needed to rapidly deploy additional instruments. And so scientists created a tool called the Spider, and it was an instrument that could be just slung in on a helicopter and dropped where it needed to be. And no scientists ever needed to stand on the volcano. So it's been a great testing ground for equipment that isn't only helping in the United States, but it's helping protect scientists' lives around the world.
Wow, amazing. And yeah, having it so close to do that. I mean, given what we know now and the amount of different ways that we can detect what's happening with the mountain, how far in advance would you be able to know if we were going to have another eruption like what happened there in 1980?
We would know pretty well in advance. So right now, all of the volcanoes in the Cascades that we monitor are active. And that means they're all doing something at any given time, whether that's a few earthquakes or a little bit of deformation like we see at South Sister, Mount St. Helens, Mount Adams, Mount Rainier. They usually have earthquakes at least once a week, usually multiple times a week. And so we're able to monitor all of these tiny things and understand what that volcano's personality is. And that's what we call background. So if you see USGS posts that say the volcano is at background levels, that's what we mean. It's still doing things, but it's well within the range of normal. As soon as we see things start to deviate from that normal, we start tracking immediately. So last year there was a big earthquake swarm at Mount Rainier. We all were notified via alerts that we get that there was starting to be a swarm early in the morning, and we were able to track it right from the time that it began. So we would be able to know that something was changing at a volcano almost instantly, and then make a decision on whether we were going to raise the alert level and color code very quickly.
Is Mount St. Helens one of the most, I don't know if this is the right word, the most observed volcanoes in the world?
Yes, absolutely. Kilauea is very observed as well, and right now it's having these episodic eruptions, fountaining eruptions, and so there's a lot of eyes on Kilauea because it's currently erupting. But even for a volcano that is not currently erupting, Mount St. Helens is one of the most well-monitored and observed volcanoes in the world. And out of all the Cascade volcanoes, it's had the two most recent eruptions, 1980 and the three most recent eruptions, really, because it had a lava dome building period from 80 to 86, another one from 2004 to 2008. And we would expect that that type of eruption, a lava dome building eruption, is probably the most likely next eruption we'll see in the Cascades from Mount St. Helens.
So not anticipating something else.
No, no, we monitor all the volcanoes just in case they show signs of awakening. But based on her history, Mount St. Helens is the most likely candidate to do something else in the near future. So that's kind of what our guess would be. Not explosive like 1980 and not devastating like 1980 was, but these small lava dome building eruptions as the volcano regrows itself.
So, okay, gotcha. Wow, amazing. Anything else that you think is important for people to know just about all the work that you do there and just Mount St. Helens in general?
Yeah, the scientists here are so incredibly dedicated. I'm so privileged to get to work with them every day. We work an 8 to 5 schedule, but we have duty scientists that rotate through, and they're keeping an eye on the volcanoes every single hour of every single day. We get alerts sent to our phones if anything change. We really operate kind of like emergency managers in that way, that we're always ready to step up when the next eruption looks like it may occur. Even when the signs are very, very insignificant, we still are all hands on deck to make sure that we're ready. And it's just incredible to work with such a elite, dedicated group of scientists here at the Cascade Volcano Observatory in Vancouver, Washington, right in our backyard.
Amazing. One other question, I just thought about this when it comes to the technology side of things. Do you see, like, with the rapid advancement of technology as it happens now, or even, artificial intelligence or something along those lines, does that kind of advancement help you better track and even understand some of the data that you're getting from your monitoring and observing?
Yeah, that's something that we're currently studying right now because everything is evolving so quickly that we have such huge volumes of data coming in all the time. There's probably a lot of ways that machine learning can play into that. Because the data is all proprietary, we wouldn't use, external AI sources, but we would be able to use internal processes and machine learning with our own data to help increase our understanding of that data as it comes in. So we're currently researching that.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, for joining us to talk about this. I always appreciate these conversations and just learning more about what's going on. And today of all days, for people who are watching live, this being the anniversary of it, really great to just think about, what's going on up there and what kind of data we're getting out of that. So, Holly, thank you as always for joining us here on Fox 12 Now.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And for everybody watching, we are live here in the newsroom, and we appreciate everybody who joins us, whether that's watching live or after the fact. Thanks for doing so. We cover a wide range of topics, and if there's breaking news, we have that for you as well, as we showed earlier today, but we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back here in a minute with more on Fox 12 Now.